What's going on, everybody? Today I wanted to talk about hell difficulties and whether or not the higher ones actually matter. There's been a few people, as well as a few creators, talking about how lower difficulties are just as good up until the cap here, and I want to talk about why that's almost certainly not true. Let's get into it. All right, so today we're going to talk about 3 different theories about hell difficulty and show some circumstantial evidence for it live here. Now, we do not have the amount of legendary items needed to run a proper sample test. If I wanted to do this, I would probably want about 1,000 to 2,000 legendaries in each difficulty and to compare the stats. But unfortunately, that would take me several weeks to do alone. And of course, I don't know if I can add anyone else's legendary items to my sample set unless they're the same difficulty and all that other stuff. But anyways, we're going to jump into Hell 1 here and talk about our first theory, which is hell difficulties do not matter at all up until the max level. So you can see here we have Paragon of 1 to 60, and when you go ahead and jump in and kill a monster, the difficulty or the stats of the item would just be the highest difficulty you could obtain in that hell difficulty. So in this case, since the cap is 60, I will receive Paragon 60 items. And if I were Paragon 60, then there would be no point to farm Hell 2 because Hell 1 is easier and it would give you the same experience as well as the same legendary quality of items. So if we just kill a few monsters here, hopefully this will end up happening fast. We want to get a singular drop here of a item. It doesn't have to be a legendary, it could just be a common. So we're going to keep killing monsters here and hope that we get a common item so I can show you what it would say on the item. I might have to skip ahead here. Oh, looks like we got one. Pick that up. And you can see here, this should be a Paragon 60 item. So if this is true, then this item would be no different than going to Hell 2, getting up an item and, oh, it's Paragon 60, therefore it is the same item. Now, there are 2 other theories which I think are both much more likely than this one. This would mean that higher difficulties literally don't mean anything until you reach the level cap or the level cap of each zone. And it doesn't seem that Blizzard would encourage you to farm lower difficulties. It would kind of remove the idea of this whole pay to win in PvE because, oh, I can just farm lower difficulties and it doesn't matter. So that seems very unlikely to me. And so we're going to talk about one theory, which initially is what I thought, but then another one that someone brought to me. So we're going to hop back to West March, jump into Hell 2, and then talk about that. And this theory is that the legendary item quality is the same, so the stats are the same. However, the drop rates are increased in different zones. Now, this is purely anecdotal evidence. So if we were to hop into Hell 2, the same thing would apply, which means the stats are the exact same up to 130 as Hell 3 if you were farming Hell 3 in 130, and then you were also to farm Hell 2 130. The stats will be exactly the same. However, you would get more drops from Hell 3 due to the monsters spawning quicker or spawning more often, the rarity of monsters, or the drop rate from those monsters is slightly increased. Now, this is very, very difficult to test. In order to test this, let's say it's like a 1% chance to drop a legendary in Hell 2 and a 1.5% chance to drop a legendary in Hell 3. Well, that would mean you would want to have a massive, massive sample size of tens of thousands in order for you to properly test this. Because of RNG in this game and how random it can be, you really, really need to flush out that drop rate. So this one is almost impossible to test. However, there's a third theory, which is brought to me by a few members of our community. And I want to talk about this one because this one, I think, is the most likely theory out there. And that is that Hell 2 and Hell 3 have the same drop rate. However, Hell 2 gear can vary in stats from Paragon 30 to Paragon 130. And then Hell 3 gear can drop Paragon 80 to 210 gear. The stats are varied even if you're Paragon 130. So let's say you are Paragon 130 and you're at Hell 2 and you drop a item. Well, it could also have the stats of a Paragon 30 item despite you actually being Paragon 130. However, the maximum potential is the same. The minimum potential is varying drastically. And just to go ahead and showcase this, I'm going to go ahead and hop into Hell 2 and we're going to go ahead and farm, I don't know, for about 10 or 5 minutes or so just to grab like 4 or 5 items and then compare that to the items in Hell 3. And I will be back in just a moment just so that we can showcase this. Again, very, very simplistic test. and not really in depth, but I just want to showcase really quickly what I'm talking about here. So this literally took like 20 minutes. I had to join a group and everything, but I have a blue shoulder piece, one from Hell 2 and one from Hell 3, a blue amulet, one from Hell 2 and Hell 3, and also a common amulet here down at the bottom. Now, you'll see that Hell 2 on average will have less stats than the higher difficulty. If we just check here, this one is a Paragon 97. You can see Paragon 97, 421 damage. This one is a Paragon 97, but this one's health from Hell 3, 446 damage. You can see that the overall stats, the main stat, is increased. And then if we just check the amulets here, we have this one from Hell 2, Paragon 97, 1395. From Hell 3, 97, 1478. And this just keeps on continuing. This is a Hell 2. These are Hell 3 pieces. These are exactly the same. I got another amulet just to showcase. These are exactly the same base stat, despite having two different options. This one's from Hell 2 with a lower life amount. So you can see that the overall quality of your gear is going to be better in your higher difficulties. Now, whether or not this is just constantly going to be the case, like the maximum potential of the gear is also increased in your higher difficulties as well as the minimum potential, or if this is just the fact that the gear is a little variant, what I will say is that there seems to be a clear advantage towards farming higher difficulties. Now, whether that is what we've said or a different theory, I'm not quite sure, because it would require a ton of testing, probably just a statement from Blizzard. But it looks like your average quality of your gear is going to be better in your higher difficulties than your lower ones. What this means for you free-to-play players and for you low spenders, for those of you that are saying, okay, it's a massive paywall to get to these higher difficulties, this is just not true. Generally, it's just you're going to have to grind. Someone in our clan here, it's basically free-to-play. I think he's a low spender, just a battle pass and stuff. You can see he's got a rank 1 or rank 3 1-star gem. He's got a rank 3 2-star, rank 7 1-star, rank 3 1-star, rank 3 1-star, and a rank 3 out of 5. You can see the combat rating over here is 2566, which is 446 more or 56 more than the Hell 3 needs. So you could absolutely achieve this. You just need to be grinding a lot. Now, if you are a pay-to-win player, you can get to this difficulty earlier. If you're a free-to-play player and you are in one of the Hell 2, Hell 1 difficulties and your combat rating isn't that high, go to Hell 3 and simply run around and tag monsters. You do not need to kill them. You just have to tag them and then let them kill it. You're not going to really interrupt their farming process because you'll be way underneath the combat rating, and so your damage won't even really matter. But once you get one legendary drop, just one of them, it'll probably be a massive upgrade at getting you 40-50 combat rating, and it'll easily get you to those higher difficulties. Now, this is something that not a lot of people are doing. They oftentimes will farm the lower difficulty, but if what we're saying is true, and that is that the lower difficulties are giving you lower quality, then the time you're spending in there is going to be less efficient than if you're just jumped into Hell 3 and get those higher quality legendary items. Hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully this kind of gives you some insight into how the difficulties work. And I did want to put this video out there because I think it's massively important for people to not just be super misinformed and running around and constantly farming these lower difficulties, when in reality, it's probably vastly worse than these higher difficulties, although I can't say for certain how much worse. There you have it. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you for the next video.